Uh,
Welcome to today's webinar, Cyber Threats and Law Enforcement. I'm your moderator, Jimmy Baker with Cal Poly's Cybersecurity Institute. We're going to talk over a few things today about the current cyber threats facing law enforcement. We're going to share with you how we've used cybersecurity to go after some untraditional crimes. And then lastly, we're going to talk about post-certified training that's available through Cal Poly's California Cybersecurity Institute. Before we get to today's presentations, we do have a few housekeeping items to go over. We are joined today by over 200 people from all over the state of California, from north, south, and central. We're going to kindly ask everyone on your dashboard to mute your microphone. Your questions are important for us. As I said, we have over 200 people joining us today. We will try to get to as many questions as we can. In the event we can't answer your question, we'll respond to you after the event. Lastly, today's event is being recorded. We will share with everyone an on-demand version of this event. Cal Poly's California Cybersecurity Institute teaches Californians how to protect California. The diagram on your screen shares with you some of the public-private training relationships that we have throughout the state, and we'll share a little bit more details on that later in the presentation. We have a favor to ask of you. Cyber threats face everyone, whether you are a cyber strategist or you're just using your keyboard and sending an email. We would like to know, what are the top cyber threats facing your organization? On your screen, there'll be a window that will pop up and it's multiple choice. Check as many boxes as you want. In the event that we have something that's outside of this parameter, please use the chat feature and let us know. We're going to ask you all to take about 10 seconds to click this polling question. All right, I want to thank everyone for answering that. Okay, let's go ahead, Ryan, if we can take the polling question down, I'll move to the next slide. It is my pleasure to introduce my esteemed colleagues. They're going to take a moment and introduce themselves. We have Martin Minnick, who's the programmer manager of Cal Poly's California Cybersecurity Institute, joined with Danielle Borelli, who is our business operations coordinator, as well as heads up our trafficking investigations hub. Marty, kindly introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. I'm a 20-year Marine veteran, United States Marine Corps. I had the pleasure of working here in academia to create a public-private partnership, and one of our outreaches and services is to make sure the law enforcement community gets the services they need to be as cyber resilient as possible. Happy to be on the call today.
Thank you, Marty. Danielle, kindly introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. So my name is Danielle Borelli. As Jimmy mentioned, I am the operations coordinator for the California Cybersecurity Institute, as well as the program lead for our trafficking investigations hub. Most of my work for that really involves doing research on topics under the umbrella of human trafficking, as well as delivering training courses, both virtual, live, and in person, and then also doing education for those within the school system. So happy to talk to you all today.
This is the part of our presentation where Marty is going to go through some of the current cyber threats facing the law enforcement community. Marty.
Yeah, first I want to just really highlight the sophistication of the attack vectors are getting much more advanced. They're targeting local, regional fusion centers, the feds, because most of our relationships through those organizations are interconnected. They are leveraging holes or gaps in one organization to exploit the rest of the family network. They're very adept at social engineering, so they'll purport or look as if they're one organization, and they'll be somebody completely different, and they'll try to extract access or data to get into the system. One of the biggest problems we're finding is the ransomware, and what they're getting in there and doing. You're losing either the loss of files or, more importantly, the loss of evidence related to a crime. When you look at some of the challenges at state and federal law, depending on where these guys are or gals are operating from, identification or even response to those incidents are being very difficult. The political climate, and I say that from two perspectives. One of them is most of your local politicians, counties, regional, they're paying the ransomware because they have a fiduciary, or they feel like they have a responsibility to provide the services to the public sector. And so they're encouraging bad behavior, in our opinion. And they're making those decisions, even if it is funded and you can track back, very difficult to prosecute or adjudicate any of these particular cases. We really want to highlight third-party vendor relationships from two perspectives. One of them is, as the wind blows, some of these service providers are making decisions that make it very difficult for the law enforcement to continue to do the business in the manner or in the process that they've seen historically empowering, and that's causing a disruption in the system and making it more difficult for the law enforcement community to do their job. The second is third-party vendor services. Most law enforcement agencies themselves are doing a fairly good job in being cyber resilient, but the service contracts or provisions from third-party vendors is providing exploits or vulnerabilities into the system that these hackers are leveraging. Really want to talk a little bit about hacktivism. And, as a bunch of people put up there, blue leaks was one of the biggest concerns. They extracted 270 gigs of data, 24 years. It included names, emails, phone, text, video, account numbers, a request from information inside and outside of the organization on investigation. And as a result, they doxed 700,000 personal addresses of our law enforcement community members. As you're well aware, that creates a vulnerability in the system from a law enforcement agent or individual being able to protect himself, his family, and feel like he can actually decompress. I know mental health is a major issue within the law enforcement community, just like it is in the military, and the inability to deconnect from always on is really aggravating the system. They also are doing denial of service attacks, really focus on critical services. I know, we've got some anecdotal data from 2016 where Baltimore lost their 911 services for 17 hours. In 2016, 12 states, they targeted their service interruptions. And down here in San Luis Obispo County last year, we actually lost 911 services for a period of time. And the local emergency services guys had to pull out the one non-connected computer to make sure that we continued to provide those critical services. Unfortunately, that's kind of the climate that we're in today, but hopefully as a public-private partnership and a service to you and the community, we think we have some remedies that can address that. I really want to go into a case study of how this has been done, and I'm going to pass this over to Danielle Borelli. This trafficking investigation hub and anti-human trafficking work that she's going to lead you through really came from a joint public-private academic partnership grant from the Attorney General, our local district attorney, and the university. We built the first regional forensics lab, fully accredited by the state, and now we've consolidated all law enforcement's digital forensics efforts under one central roof. So 13 different law enforcement agencies in San Luis Obispo County now bring all their forensics to one place, and then the DA can prosecute those cases with a standard, or prosecute or adjudicate, I should say, those cases with the right consolidated plan and format. So let me turn it over to Danielle, and she'll give you a little details on how we put this public-private partnership into effect.
Sure, thank you, Marty. So human trafficking, as I'm sure many of you know, is an international issue. We see it in various aspects within our society, especially here in California with the diverse industries that we have, both agriculture, hotel and recreational services, and then of course that of sex trafficking as well. A lot of that has really been exacerbated in the past 10, 20 years by technology. Previous to the onset of the internet and everyone having a smartphone and a laptop, a lot of these types of transactions, specifically speaking about sex trafficking, occurred on the streets or in red light districts, and now we're seeing that really take place on different social media sites where both grooming, online enticement, and then the exploitation of an individual can occur on the same platform or similar platforms that are all encrypted. And so one of the things that we want to bring to the table and have in the past is really bringing that awareness around the convergence of human trafficking and cybersecurity issues, and kind of this concept of combating non-traditional cyber adversaries. So one of the first initiatives we took in helping to achieve that was within a private-public partnership. So within one of our partnership organizations called the Digital Transformation Hub, we were actually able to partner with Polaris, which is one of the leading national anti-human trafficking organizations within the nation, to bring together a live immersive training set. And with that, we were able to build out 4 different immersive training scenarios. 2 of them were illicit massage businesses. One was a hotel brothel, and the other one was a parking lot. And what that ended up doing was, after a week long of in the classroom PowerPoint training, some other hands-on exercises, officers from all over the nation were able to take that data that they had absorbed over a week's time and then apply it into a real-world scenario. And the feedback that we received from that was, 1, there were caveats and experiences that they would not have been able to gain if they didn't have that experience, that now they're able to apply in the real world when it really matters, when they're really looking for victims, looking for specific signs of human trafficking occurring, whether it's anecdotal or whether you're searching for that probable cause. And so what we've done with that is we've then partnered with another organization called the Global Emancipation Network to bring together technology and technical tools to really help with that investigation side of things. So what we do with Global Emancipation Network is we actually focus on developing tools using data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence that does mass web scraping of public profiles of those advertising for illicit activities, specifically that of illicit massage businesses. Also, there's technology that we've helped develop to scan through CSAM, or child sexual abuse materials. And in addition to that, we've also developed a prototype for a virtual reality / augmented reality room, so that we're actually able to take what we do physically and then apply that into a physical immersive environment, and then apply that into a VR world, so that those who can't make it down to San Luis Obispo, and even though it's a wonderful place to be, can actually do the training at home within their own area without having to incur that extra travel expense. Some of the other trainings that we've been able to put on just most recently this year is, of course, Human Trafficking 101. We focus specifically on illicit massage businesses, as it's been classified as one of the fastest growing forms of human trafficking in the nation. Online investigations I kind of went into earlier, but that's really, especially with COVID in place, we have kids who are on technology now more than ever. And I'm sure you've been asked this question, I've been asked this question at least once a week: how is human trafficking being impacted by COVID? And my answer is really that it's hard to track right now, but undoubtedly more kids are using their laptops, their cell phones, their iPads, any type of digital device to connect to online platforms, whether it's messaging or social media or gaming, places that predators are already infiltrated in and now have a bigger pool and a longer area to stay in to help with that grooming, online enticement, and that exploitation. And then we also are currently working on documentation fraud and labor trafficking and the correlation between those two related to human trafficking, and doing some research studies on that. And as of now, we're working with our district attorney to bring to the table bioreform education also. So Jimmy, if you can go to the next slide. So in whole, the Trafficking Investigations Hub really is that true public-private partnership with academia, Cal Poly, with nonprofits, and then of course with law enforcement and other agencies that deal with justice initiatives. So we do, again, research, education, both for service providers, law enforcement, military, and the school system. And then we also work on those investigative tools to help with different methods to identify where human trafficking may be occurring online and to whom. And then also that research side, where we're actually looking to see where other patterns may develop to help inform policy and future training curriculum. So, and next I'll turn it over to Marty.
Yeah, one of the reasons why we wanted you to use that as a case study is to really show you the depth that our partnership can bring. We have, about 85 current course offerings, about 30 or 40 of those are post-certified. But what we can do as a partner is we can custom create any curriculum that's needed based on your modality. We're a cybersecurity institute, so we're not going to be able to do de-escalation of force or retrain your workforce to do some of the other niche law enforcement requirements. But if it is involving ones or zeros, we would like to partner with your organization, find a way to help mature them on the cybersecurity maturity model, whether it's digital literacy, cybersecurity, or a specific subset of training that you or your organization needs. We really just want to inform you that we're here as your partner. We're part of POST for a reason. We're one of the only state universities that is a POST member. And we think it's very important for the law enforcement community to really leverage the educational community. Don't always have the best relationship. Believe me, I'm a military guy. I know some of this friction with academia, but it truly is part of the community at large that's here to support you. One example of that is we're building the first digital forensics curriculum to be injected into Allen Hancock's Public Safety Training Center down there at Allen Hancock Community College. It will convert 8 hours of forensics training into the first digital forensics training taught in the law enforcement academies here in California. And we plan on scaling that up and distributing that to the rest of the community. So as you educate us on your requirements, we can deliver more mature and responsive training material. Thank you. Here's kind of a roadmap, because most of the time when we have a conversation about cybersecurity, 95% of people glaze over and they don't understand what we're talking about. So we really want to give everybody kind of a roadmap, whether you are an entry level, whether you have a passion for it, or whether you are technically advanced. We really want to meet you and your organization where you're at. If you go to cci.calpoly.edu, we have this roadmap available, but in addition, at the bottom of our training page, we have a link to NICE put out an entire cornucopia of training that's completely free or very, very low cost. So, one of the things that we're trying to provide to the law enforcement community is those free resources, as well as training that meets your requirements. So please look to us if you have any needs, and we'll help map you to your requirement. This is the other really piece that I think is going to be very relevant for your public-private academic partnerships moving forward. State budgets are under duress. Law enforcement budgets are under duress. Federal budget is under duress. Everything in our portfolio is either post-certified, FEMA certified, or DHS certified. So if you have access to one of those funding streams, you can use those funding streams to obtain our training for registration, travel, backfill, per diem, overtime, etc. The other piece of that, Jimmy's showing you the Bay Area Urban Security Initiative grant that we're on. And that's what I say that specifically as a grant, because as you identify specific lines of effort, just like we did for the regional forensics lab, your educational institutions are very good at finding either federal, state, or private funding sources to build a program around and meet your requirements. So even if you do not have existing funding, if you partner with the CCI or one of your own local educational institutions, they would love to join you on a grant opportunity to bring additional resources to meet your training needs. And that's one of the things we really want to highlight through this presentation. One of the big things, I'll kick this back over to you, Jimmy, is we wanted to give people enough time to ask questions and get some biofeedback going on here. I know we'll respond to everybody's questions by email or after this, but maybe people got a couple questions that we can answer right now.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone listening in. We've got about 10 minutes left on this webinar, and we want to be respectful of your time. We have a couple hundred people that registered today. I think everyone, we have a large audience that stayed with us through the entire presentation, but we've got a lot of questions. First one coming in, Marty, it's gonna be to you. And we're getting we've had a couple different flavors where people are asking us to explain more, like, could you talk a little bit more about what you mean by a public-private relationship, how that works? And people have also been asking for clarification on what we do with the California Post that we're a presenter. If you could talk a little bit about what we offer through there versus the Bay Area, say. Marty, I'm not hearing you right now.
Yeah, so one of the hurdles we kept running into for the state agencies was funding and contracting, okay? So what we worked very hard to do was establish contract vehicles so that the state agencies could obtain our training by navigating the existing bureaucracy. So again, Cal OES, all our stuff is listed under the California Specialized Training Institute. If you need something and you have a relationship with CSTI, you can reach through CSTI and obtain our services. Same with Post. You can reach into Post and we can deliver any of our existing content, or we can custom create new content, get that Post certified for your organization, and leverage Post funding to deliver that training. The other piece is the FEMA under the Urban Area Security Initiatives, the BWASI, specifically the Bay Area. We basically did a competed, we went out and they did an open solicitation. We responded to that proposal. We were down selected as the cybersecurity provider for the Bay Area. And you can leverage the BWASI contract, which is FEMA funds, to purchase or obtain our training. We're also on CMAS, California Multiple Award System. So if you aren't on one of those vehicles but have internal resources, you can reach into CMAS on a non-compete clause and you can pull our training right down there. It's like GSA for the state. Anybody doesn't know what GSA is, it's just like the government service account where anybody can find any training at a standardized price. I think the public-private partnership is a deeper conversation. It's a deeper conversation because you have a lot of these contracts and partnerships already in place, whether it's with Cisco, Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, FireEye. There is certain leverage and negotiations that you can do to modify existing contracts to help build your cybersecurity resiliency. So as I'm advocating for you to have a public-private partnership with the California Cybersecurity Institute so that we can get deeper and explore your specific requirements, and whether we innovate a solution for you, whether we deliver new training for you, or whether we partner with you and go get a grant and try to do something together, all those are possible versions. But what I really want to highlight on the public-private partnership is mature the relationships that you already have with your organizations across the state. And we'd be happy to educate you on how to do that. And you can quickly put in place cyber response capabilities, cyber incident handling, cybersecurity insurance relationships. All those things are available through your existing contracts with minor contract modifications. And the nice thing is it's almost a no cost modification to the contract, because if you don't need the services, you don't have to pay for it. But if it's not in the contract language, when you do need the services, they're going to be unavailable to your organization. Jimmy, I hope that hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah.
Happy to go deeper if needed.
No, there's one small question I am going to ask you to answer. And for everyone listening, and we have a very large audience that stayed with us, we might slightly go over the time limit. We're about 5 minutes till we're supposed to conclude, but we're getting a lot of questions coming in. Marty, one of the questions, and I think this is a brilliant question that came in, is cyber training just for techies?
No, it's really not. So one of the programs, we're also mapped under California Employment Training Panel. That's a private tax that every employer in the state of California pays. It goes up into this consolidated fund. It's about 120 million a year that gets distributed out. And it's to reskill, upskill, or retrain the California workforce. I'm using this as an example because the US government and the DoD just put out guidelines that all DoD manufacturers need to have a cybersecurity maturity model and be on some spectrum of that in order to continue to supply the US government with goods. 90 or about 17 or 18% of the DoD supply chain sits here in the state of California, and 97% of that supply chain is non-DoD compliant with that new guideline. So we actually built a digital literacy training program for 113 employees at one of our DoD manufacturers here in town. And we're basically crawling them into understanding their role and responsibility within the organization for the physical and cyber security of their company, so that they can play their part in making sure their organization is secure. And that's where the social engineering is really coming into play, Jimmy. These guys are looking at organizations. They're looking at social media maps or contractual relationships that have been put out, and they're reverse engineering an entire organization and then launching phishing emails and trying to get access. And so, you know, everybody from the secretary to the accountant to the law enforcement agency or patrolman on the street has a role and responsibility to play in the cybersecurity and physical security protection of their organization.
Thank you, Marty. Danielle, a lot of questions have been coming in on the human trafficking. We're even getting some people that attended your January summit, as well as the immersion set that you did at the Advanced Conference last year. What I want to ask you on, could you talk a little bit about how interchangeable are the immersive trainings? Because I know earlier you talked about what we created, and for a lot of people listening in, you know, Danielle had law enforcement from the entire country come in, and she recreated immersion environments at Cal Poly's cyber range and put digital clues in. So Danielle, if you could talk a little bit more about how interchangeable are the immersive trainings, and as a follow on that, can anything be done to specialize for certain types of crime? And if you could answer that, that would be great.
Sure. So I think the greater advantage we have to pull off those immersive trainings is really found within our private-public partnership. I know it's a buzzword during this conversation, but it truly is the key to what we're doing. So whatever issue that is wanting to be addressed, we would find the appropriate expert in the field to help us frame what kind of environment that both evidence and other types of digital crimes would take place. And so the example, going back to Polaris, we were able to redesign an illicit massage business based off of leveraging some conversations and expertise we had from some of our partners. So we've done other scenes before. We've done both brothels, we've done that parking lot, and we've done something strictly just with digital crimes, which really occur mostly on cell phones, especially within that realm. And so really, to answer the question directly, with the right funding and the right partnerships and the particular issue set, we can do pretty much anything within that reasonable field. So it really just comes down to
Danielle, can I add something real quick?
Yeah, of course.
I think it's important to denote there. We got 3 other examples that we can inject here. We actually replicated a terrorist attack on a watershed We replicated the ransomware attack that happened to Atlanta in 2018 for some of our training participants. And then we actually created a mass casualty drill in relating to a low frequency distribution that disrupted a bunch of pacemakers and some of the threats that the medical community are facing. And one of the areas we're working for Vandenberg and our Air Force folks is addressing the supply chain vulnerabilities in satellite production and launch. So the live immersive environments are modular, and they can be created for your particular requirement. As a military guy, I'll tell you, we never went anywhere without doing it as live as possible first. And one of the very unique things about Cal Poly, I'm not an alum, but I'm a true believer in the product that they put out, is this learn by doing pedagogy, where everything has a lab or a learning lab associated with it. And so, yes, it's modular. Yes, it can meet your requirement. We would lean on your organization and your subject matter expertise relationships to make sure we caught all the nuances that you were looking for. And then we'd leverage our deep partnership to make sure that it was accurate as the crimes are happening today and not what they have been doing historically.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Danielle. There are a lot more questions we just don't have time to get to. I know we're right at the top of the hour. We'll respond back to you all electronically through email. We'll be sending a copy of this webinar out to you. I just wanted to highlight a few things that are coming up with Cal Poly's Cybersecurity Institute. These are all free events for you to attend. Next month, we're going to be hosting a webinar on election security and COVID-19. We'll send a link to everyone listening in today. We're going to be hosting a Law Enforcement Digital Innovations Day. It'd be a must attend for everyone here on the call. We'll send you a link to that. We're also going to be starting to work with Post, a Cyber Monday kind of lunch and learn, and the similar training that we do for our team here at the CCI. We're going to be sharing with you the newest trends and concept and what's going on in the cybersecurity world in plain speak, so you can implement and be aware of what's going on to your organization. Lastly, we have the Cyber Diner podcast that's going to launch this fall, and it's really cybersecurity for the everyday person. All of these will be free to attend, and then as you saw earlier, we offer about 25 training courses that are post-certified. I want to thank everyone for joining us from all over the great state of California. On behalf of the California Cybersecurity Institute, I'm Jimmy Baker. Thank you for attending, and make it a great day.